In this video, we're going to talk about how the first thing we're going to talk about is affirmative-negative question pattern. Okay, so what does that mean? This is another way to ask a yes or no question. The way that we've learned in the past was if you want to make a statement into a yes or no question, you simply put ma at the end of the question, otherwise leaving the sentence in the same order, exactly the same. You can put ma and it changes it into a yes or no question. And yes, that is the most basic way, but there's another very common way to ask a yes or no question, and that is this pattern of repeating the verb in the affirmative and the negative. And it's almost as if you say, it's like you give the person a choice. Is it yes or is it no? It's a yes or no question, right? Let me give you an example, and I think it'll be clear. 你是不是美国人? So literally, you are, not are, American, or like are not. You are not American. So it's you are not American. It means, are you American? But it's as if you're giving the person a question. Now there's no ma. I want to point that out. That's important because this way of like doing the affirmative and then a negative form of the verb side by side like that makes it into a yes or no question. It means the same thing as a ma. If there's a difference, I think maybe the ma question sometimes has a little bit of an expectation that it's going to be a affirmative, like the answer is going to be affirmative, but not in a big way, and it's certainly not all the time. I think it just feels a little bit like that. Like if you want to say, 你要过来吃饭吗? Do you want to come over and eat, ma? Then it has a little bit more of like, oh yeah, I'm kind of hoping that you'll say yes, but not in a big way. It's simply a yes or no question. Tone of voice has a lot to do with that. This may have a little bit more of like a flat line, like it's totally neutral. But again, it just depends on the situation. There's a very common like 好不好, meaning like good, not good, that also has a strong feeling of like, I'm expecting you to say yes, so it's not 100%. Basically, it means the same thing as a ma question. Here's another example. 你打不打球? It means 打球 means to play ball, or it can apply to different sports like basketball or what am I thinking of? Badminton or different things. So 你打不打球? So are you going to play ball? That's what it means. Are you going to play ball? 你打不打球? Here's an example of the same idea, but you'll notice that it's a little bit different. And the difference is that the negative is not bu. Let me back up just 1 second. I want to point out that the bu here in this pattern is usually a lighter tone. So instead of it being like 是不是, it's 是不是. Does that make sense? 是不是, 是不是. And it's like 打不打, 打不打. It's not 打不打, it's 打不打. Okay, here we go to this. So now we're talking about a sentence it's asking about a completed action. Did this action happen or not happen? So the affirmative form is 吃饭了, ate. So I'm asking, did you eat or not? Did you eat, essentially? Did you eat? But one of the ways I can ask that is 你吃饭了没? Or I can put a 没有, it's the same. 你吃饭了没? End of question. Or 你吃饭了没有? Does that make sense? So the affirmative is 我吃饭了. The negative is 我没有吃饭. So this is actually, it's almost like it's like a 你吃饭了没有吃饭? If I had to fill it out the whole way, it'd be 没有吃饭. But no one's going to say it like that. No one's going to say 你吃饭了没有吃饭? They're just going to say 你吃饭了没有? Because this is the affirmative part of it, and then this is the negative, like the negative part of it. It's the same idea, the same pattern, affirmative, negative, but because we're talking about a completed action either happening or not, we're going to use 没 instead of 不. But the 没有 goes over here, right? We're not going to say 你吃饭没吃饭了, whatever. The 了 has to attach here, so it's 吃饭了没有? Now, I wanted to point out that we can also do the same thing with adjectives. So, here's an adjective. 他帅不帅? 帅 means handsome. So the question is he handsome? 他帅不帅? And you can also, this is much less common, but you'll hear it. You can actually drop the second one and just end with 不. So for example, 好玩不? Meaning, was it fun? Or is it fun? Or whatever. 好玩不? So I just wanted to point that out too. You might hear that at times where you can actually just drop the second, adjective there. And then I want to point out what you do when the adjective, or verb, if it's a two-syllable adjective or verb, there are two ways to go about it. You can do the whole thing, 不 whole thing. Like for example, 你可以不可以帮忙? 帮忙 means to help out or to do a favor. So I'm saying, can you help? 你可以不可以帮忙? That's fine. Or you can drop the second character of the first one, and you can drop it out of it. So it's 你可不可以帮忙? You see what I did there? If it's like, it'd be 你喜不喜欢? 你喜不喜欢? And here it is in adjective form. If I'm saying 好玩吗? I'm changing it to affirmative negative. I can say 好玩不好玩, but I can also say 好不好玩? 好不好玩? Does that make sense? So that's how that works. When it's a two-syllable verb or adjective, you can either say the whole thing, 不 whole thing, or you can say first syllable, no second syllable, and then 不, and then the whole thing. So there you go. That's an affirmative negative. It's a super common, everyday kind of way to ask a yes or no question. Super important for your learning. In this segment, we're going to talk about tag questions. This is kind of fun. Now, what are tag questions? We have them in English. They are when you say a statement, but then to clarify that it's true, that it's right, that it's okay, then you put a little question word at the end of the statement. So if I want to say, for example, it's like, you're American, right? That right is a tag question. So you can do the exact same thing in Chinese. The way to say it in Chinese would be, you're American, 对吗? Or 对不对? And so there are different kinds of tag questions. Here I have a little list of Chinese words that are commonly used in tag questions. So we have 是, meaning is. So we might say, is that so? And we'll use that to clarify whether something is true. We have 对, which means correct. So makes sense, right? Correct, right? Yeah, it makes sense, right? I just did it. Ha! 可以 means can. So it means okay, as in like, I have an idea, okay? Or let's do this, okay? And then same idea, 好 means good. Is that good? Is that okay? Is that fine? Idea. We have 行, which also means something very similar. Does that work? Is that okay? Is that fine? Something along those lines. So these are the words. I'm sure there's others, but these are the super common ones that commonly end up in tag questions. And then the next thing to point out is that there are two kinds of tag questions. Fortunately, we just learned about affirmative negative yes and no questions. So you can take any of these and you can make them into either a ma tag question or an affirmative negative tag question. So this can be 是吗? It can also be 是不是? This can be 对吗? Or it can be 对不对? Right. You got it. 对. It can be 可以吗? Or it can be 可以不可以? Or more commonly 可不可以? Does that make sense? Because I told you can drop the second syllable when you say it the first time. 可不可以? That's probably the most common. But also 可以不可以 is grammatically fine. It sounds a little bit more harsh, strong, like answer the question, It sounds a little bit stronger to me somehow, but it's not a big deal either way. We have 好吗 or 好不好, and we have 行吗 or 行不行. You got it? That's not too hard, I don't think, to grasp. Okay, so I kind of put these in. I put a blank here because there's so many different kinds of tag questions, and you know either the ma form or the affirmative-negative form that can be thrown in here. Okay, so 天气好冷. What does that mean? 天气 is weather. 好冷, 冷 is cold. Here, 好 does not mean good. It means 很. 好 can also mean 很, meaning very. So it's 天气好冷. The weather is very cold. Tag question. What kind of tag question would go there? It'd be like a right kind of question, like the weather is so cold, right? So which ones do we have there? It'd be 是吗 or 是不是 or 对吗 or 对不对. So this one is a different kind. It's not going to be a right or it's not going to be talking about the truthfulness of the statement. It's going to be talking about the okayness of the statement. 今天一起吃个饭. So that means today, together, eat a meal. By the way, this means let's eat together today at some point, and then it would be something like 对吗? Oh no, not 对. Excuse me. It'd be 可不可以 or 可以吗? 好不好 or 好吗 or 行不行 or 行吗? Something like that. I just wanted to point out this ga here is not. It's not exactly saying one. I mean, I guess grammatically maybe it's saying one meal here. Let's eat a meal, but not really actually, because the measure word for meal is 顿. So you get 吃一顿饭. It's more of like it's ga can sometimes be thrown in after some verbs to be this very like it's casual way of saying let's eat together. And so the it makes it feel more casual, kind of like 一下 after some verbs, where rather than being the specific one thing that follows it is. So that's all. That's a lot of words to say. It's sort of like a way to make this whole sentence feel a little casual. 今天一起吃个饭, and then it could be any of those okay question mark forms. And here, this is a great sentence. I mean, it's not a great sentence. It's something to point out how to use 是不是. Now, 是不是 is different in the tag question category because it can be a normal tag question. You can put it right here. 今天好冷,是不是? But 是不是 can also be inserted into the middle or even the beginning of sentences, and it has a function. I think I pointed out in an earlier video in HSK 2 that sometimes 是 thrown into a sentence does not exactly mean is. It kind of has it's used for emphasis or clarification in ways, and this is an example of that. And so I did some searching on YouTube and I found this guy on ABC. It's called it's ABC Chinese, but it's combined into like ABC, and that's the beginning of Chinese. ABC Chinese channel. And the young man gave an excellent example of this sentence. He said, the sentence is 你是不是想去美国? So 你想去美国 means you want to go to America. So the question is, do you want to go to America? But it's not exactly do you want to go to America. It's something like, is it that you want to go to America? Is that what's going on here? That's what's happening right now? Am I understanding correctly? Is it that you want to go to America? Does that make sense? So he gave an example of, say, a husband and wife, they plan to go to France. They've made that plan, but the wife is acting grumpy. The husband then realizes that she actually wanted to go to America, but she didn't speak up, or at least that's what he surmises. He questions. So is that what's happening here? And so he says, 你是不是想去美国? You see the context is different from a direct yes or no question. Do you want to go to America? Because there's a background. He's like, oh, that's why you're upset, I think. Let me clarify. 你是不是想去美国? Is it that you want to go to America? Does that make sense? What that does, it adds this little clarification. And yeah, so that's you can insert it into the middle of stuff to add that kind of like clarification about what's happening, or that emphasis, kind of saying like, is it that? ... All right, so those are tag questions. Keep up the good work. Do your exercises. As always, I want to point out that your exercises do not have to be perfect. Just do the best you can. Throw them in there, and try to like illustrate the point that's happening. You might not be able to get the whole sentence 100% right, or just the way a Chinese person would say it. I can't even do that sometimes. I need to check with Chinese friends to make sure I didn't say it in a way that's unnatural. So yeah, just do your best. Have someone check it for you if you can. But the point is that you're trying to illustrate and practice the points being taught. Keep up the good work.